Good afternoon, Tim. It's great to see you at the Reefs today, especially as we're celebrating 50 years at the Reefs, brought here by none other than your father, Aubrey.
Amongst a lot of other people, yeah, that's quite true. It was quite a difficult time 50 years ago because we lost our tenancy where we had been previously in Laleham, and try as they would, it was impossible to find premises within the borough of what was then Staines, which is now Spelthorne, and eventually this was found, which, as you may know, is a former gravel pit. In fact, the first few years during half time we used to spend our time picking up old bits of flint and muck, but it turned out to be a very happy home for us. And in fact, I do believe we are one of very few clubs within the M25 that actually owns their own premises freehold, which puts us in a position of some strength in some areas.
Asset rich, cash poor.
We've been cash poor for quite some time, but we comfort ourselves with the richness of the assets.
So Tim, it's interesting to hear that your father started the very first Colts team in Middlesex.
Yeah, I believe it was the first Colts team in the country. Bear in mind that in 1949, when he started the Cygnets, things were very, very different. There was the austerity in the post-war period, which made it difficult to get. We couldn't, in fact, afford Staines shirts. They had to have cheap red shirts, which were the only things available through rationing. But the situation was also that in those days, people left school at 15. And at that time, there was absolutely no organised rugby for people who'd gone to secondary school, left before O-levels, and between the ages of 15 and 18 there was nothing organised. So he organised this Colts side. Found it quite difficult to find fixtures for them initially because the school sides tended to be a great deal stronger. But it brought a lot of people into rugby who probably otherwise would have been lost. And in fact, a couple of people from the original team I was lucky enough to play with, Dickie Evans, Jim Daly, who were both first team players for a long time. I played with during my career, and you know, it was a very good move, which others very quickly followed.
Very interesting that the Colts players there developing through to the senior side, and the importance of those guys getting rugby at a young age, which I never realised would have been lost. That's actually fantastic and a true groundbreaker of his day.
It was a groundbreaker, and to a certain extent it was probably a little easier then than it is now, in as much as people didn't move around so much. There wasn't so much university education. People didn't go away and possibly not come back to where they'd been educated, and people generally didn't move around so much. So the progression from Colts rugby to senior rugby was much smoother.
Interesting. Great to see today that our under-16s team, which will become the academy side, they were running the line and playing ball boys for the Swans there. How do you feel today, seeing such a fantastic result, 77 points to 7 for Staines against St Albans? What does that make you feel like?
It makes me feel very cheerful and very optimistic. I mean, the last 2 seasons we've suffered from a number of self-inflicted wounds, but I think it's the quality of the spirit of the club that we've come through that. And that we're still being loyally supported by a bunch of people who remember the good days, and I think have got confidence that the good days will come back again.
It's great to see the team spirit amongst the Swans and the Cobs. Great to see guys that played away for the Cobs this morning coming back to the club to cheer on the Swans this afternoon. I think it's fantastic. Having seen the pain of the last 2 years, I'm really excited about the season ahead, and I think it's fantastic that everybody's involved from the top to the bottom.
Yeah, I agree, and interestingly enough, we were saying on the touchline, this Staines first team reminds us of Staines first teams of quite some time ago. We were traditionally very, very slick in the backs, and these boys are throwing the ball around beautifully and playing rugby, which is a joy to watch.
That's a very high accolade indeed. I think the boys will be really pleased to hear that on the YouTube TV.
They're also, I have to say, fitter than we were, but shouldn't go on about that too much.
Fantastic. Thanks very much for your time, Tim.
My pleasure.